Hey guys, welcome back to Sports Tea. Tonight we're going to discuss Victor Wembanyama, the incredible rookie that's helped lead his country to the gold medal game. Before we jump right into this segment, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Feel free to share your thoughts on Wemby in the comment section as well. I love to hear what you guys think. So to get started, I do have a few sound bites from Hoop Collective, a podcast ran by Brian Windhorse. He's joined by Tim McMahon and Tim Bontemps. I call them the two Tims from ESPN. They shared an interesting quote from Wemby after his gold medal loss that left him in shambles, crying on the court and courtside after the game. So let's hear it.
You can Google it.
I think we can use the Victor thing to jump off to Tatum in 2028 because I think that's where
he's not done telling us the whole Victor exchange.
That's right. This all began with that, right?
Yeah. So this is with Mike Finger of the San Antonio Express News. And the thing about it is that Victor is doing a majority of his interviews here in French, and there's a huge French contingent here. And so for all I know,
what a surprise.
Right, of course. For all I know, he was MFing, half of America in French. But this is what was the back and forth. He said, the Spurs talk about the currency of experience. You go through things you can put in your bank. Said, do you think you gained on that front? And
that was Mike's question.
Yes, it's a good question. And Victor said, no one's going to take that from me, from the experience. I'm learning, and I'm worried for the opponents in a couple years. And then Mike said, which opponents, the NBA or FIBA? And Victor said, everywhere.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so exactly. That's so great.
And it was hard for me to relate that in the quote because I would have to use the report because the quote is everywhere, and then you got to sort of set it up.
No, but that's just great.
You can call it arrogance, confidence, whatever. It ain't bragging if it's true, and it's true. And we can talk about his size, we can talk about his skill. Embracing and thriving when the lights are brightest is a talent, and there's no question he has that talent. The question is, when are the Spurs going to be able to put him in those situations on a regular basis? Like
he's going to start putting himself there.
Well, they're going to have to.
The LeBron thing is a reminder, and this is not a criticism of the Spurs at all because they're just getting started. They made a lot of smart long-term moves, but the LeBron thing is a reminder, even though Victor's at the other end of his career, that you can't do it by yourself.
Okay, so Tim McMahon is basically saying, hey, it ain't tricking if you got it. I personally think it's totally fine to brag if something is true. Brag if it's true. So what? But bragging is bragging. It is bragging. So if you're bragging, whether it's true or not. I think it was rich that Tim USA in particular, Steph Curry, put Wemby and France to sleep and told them night-night with 4 threes in the fourth quarter. And he was saying that he's worried for his opponents. Interesting. You just lost. You lost. What people need to fear for the future doesn't matter because the Americans just won the gold and left you in tears. What I thought was even more interesting is the fact that Wemby didn't even play well throughout the Olympics, but his opponents needed to be worried. He's an alien freak of nature. LeBron has said this. KD has come out and said it. And shit, we can all see it with our own eyes. The length, the wingspan, his skills and footwork. It's incredible for his size. Something that Wendy and Bontemps shine a light on is Wemby's style of play and his insistence on playing like a guard. So let's hear the analysis.
Can't do it by yourself. So he's got to get some help. As good as he is going to be, clearly. So you got to have both.
The other thing is, Bontemps, you were talking about Victor's issues when he puts the ball on the floor.
Yes.
He was determined to put the ball on the floor against Germany in the semifinal, and it didn't go well for him. He was 4 of 17 shooting in that game. He really wanted to create off the dribble, and the Germans just were poking the ball from him. He just had a really rough game.
It went worse against him the previous game against Dylan Brooks in Canada.
You know, I didn't see a large part of that game because I was doing
yes.
TV.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's a similar deal, inefficient, and like he's not a shooting guard, as Bontemps said last pod. Phenomenal finisher, not there as the primary initiator, and maybe never will be, and who cares?
well, he did basically catch and shoot, make very decisive moves in the final. The first 90 seconds of the game, I think it was the first possession, the US won the tip. They created a shot, and the shot went up from the right side, and Victor was on the left side of the block, and Joel was right there, and Joel boxed Victor out. Joel was going to get an offensive rebound, and the ball came off, and Victor reached right over the top of Joel's head and took it away from him. And it was like you taking away from your sons, McMahon. You just didn't even have to jump. And Joel, when he has position, probably has never jumped in his life.
I mean, he didn't box that often, but when he does, it's pretty effective.
And he reached up, and it got taken away from him. And he was like, "What?" He was like, "Where'd that come from?" And then they went down the court, and the ball swung around, and Victor caught it about 24 feet out. Not even hesitation. Let it fly. Bam.
You know what?
And
he took a late step back on this, and it was like creating off the dribble, stepping back to his right. I'm like, man, that's a terrible shot. Out of curiosity, I looked up, like, what did he shoot on step back threes last year? What do you think he shot percentage wise on step back threes?
Well, he couldn't make.
I'm going to guess it was something like 12%.
Well, he couldn't make any threes for the first 2 months of the season. So I don't know if you draw a line, but
46%.
Oh,
I was shocked by that.
Well, I mean, he shot 32 on them for the season. So, I mean,
it's the pull-ups were terrible. The step backs, actually, it was not a huge sample size. It was like,
right. Well, yeah. Well, in this tournament too, he shot 11 for 38, which is 29% on threes.
Yeah.
What I would love for Victor to do for next year.
What did they not have on that team? A freaking point.
I know.
By the way, I would not say on balance, Victor had a quote unquote great.
Okay. So I thought that they were spot on with how they describe him trying to be a guard at 1,000,000 feet tall. There's just no reason for a guy who's over 7 feet to play as a guard. Unless he's worried about getting beat up in the paint and having to worry about being physical while playing off the ball. He shot poorly as a rookie in the NBA. He couldn't buy a shot early in the season, and then we began to celebrate his defensive talent and his blocks per game. I really do think that he's an amazing talent, and we haven't seen a guy this tall with his skill set ever. So he is a very special player. I'm worried for the hype that we're giving him before he's actually done anything, before he's been given any pieces to be surrounded with. But let's be for real. He has no business handling the ball. We saw him get ripped and stripped throughout the Olympics. He's not a ball handler. He will continue to struggle. And it's a great thing that he has Chris Paul to force him into a role, in San Antonio that makes sense on the floor. And personally, I love how analysts try to predict what is going to happen with players instead of judging them based on where they are now, because it doesn't necessarily fit a narrative. So if the narrative is that he's the greatest, player that we're going to see for years to come, it doesn't fit a narrative if he doesn't play well in the Olympics. So we have to change it. Right. So in my opinion, though, we really, really, we need to judge players based on where they are in their development. We have to rate players based on their accomplishments and what they are actually doing currently. It's very interesting that players have these huge delusional fan bases due to media hype in moments that never resulted in winning anything yet. Players have a ton of pressure to live up to that kind of hype. We've seen it so many times. Brian and the two Tims, they continue with bold predictions and contradictions. So let's hear this last soundbite before we call it a night.
What did they not have on that team? A freaking point.
By the way, I would not say on balance, Victor had a quote unquote great Olympics.
He had a great opener, in a great
That's
gold
right.
medal. Despite
That's
the loss.
right. That's right.
And the other game, the defense, the rebound, and he struggled offensively as a scorer, but he was impactful.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I would love, the thing I would love to see Victor do next year or the next couple of years is stop trying to be a guard as much and just, like I've said this before, I think he's got a chance to be Dirk on offense and Rudy Gobert on defense, which is an insane player.
Well,
and if he just watches, and look, the dribbling could come later to me, but to me, I would be like, look, play like Dirk, learn that one-legged step fall away jumper that's unblockable, and just become a knockdown.
He's worked on that
3-point shooter. No, I know.
Listen, I would say Dirk with Tyson Chandler's rolling and finishing ability. If
Well,
you
sure,
want
that's fine too. But I just mean, like, I mean, Dirk was an MVP and a top 20 player of all time, and an unbelievable shooter. Like, he's still, like you said, he's taking these pull up threes. I would like him to just become a 38 to 40% 3-point shooter, which with his form, I think he's got the capability of doing that. If he does that, forget the dribbling stuff. He's unstoppable if he does that.
The dribbling, it's like attacking closeouts and that kind of thing. Yes, like defense loaded up against you and you're just going to create. No, but dude, as like his ability as a lob catcher.
Oh, it's unbelievable. I mean, this is all nitpicking. I mean, he's insane.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, he's completely
I'm excited. I know Chris Paul is not, point guard that he used to be. I'm very excited to watch Victor Wembanyama with highly competent, high IQ point guard play and some decent spacing around him.
That'll be fun.
It would shock me if he's a first-team All-NBA player this year. It would not shock me at all.
There's a bold prediction.
What's the bet? Let's go.
It's not a bet. It wouldn't shock me. I'm just saying. Dude,
honestly,
the second
bold
half
prediction.
last year, he was playing at that sort of a level.
Brian, McMahon is racing past you in the Victor hierarchy.
When's the last time you felt this impressed by a rookie?
I know the answer.
Who?
The guy who made All NBA second year in the league. Yeah, Luka Doncic. Yeah,
he
Okay, so basically, Tim McMahon is going all in on Wemby being named All NBA in his second year in the league, which is interesting to me. You hear McMahon glazing, you hear Bontemps kind of playing the middle road, right? Telling him that Gobert and a combination of Gobert and Dirk is an insanely great player. I mean, that combination isn't the best player that we've ever seen. Let's be clear. I mean, if Wemby continues to struggle offensively like he did in his rookie season, is it really possible for him to be All NBA in his second year? As far as Wemby being anointed as the future of the sport, which to me is a marketing tool or a gimmick for media hype, when you truly are the future of the sport, you come into the NBA already the best player in the world as a teenager, like Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem, Kobe Bryant. You don't come into the NBA hoping to just, develop into the future of the sport. Sorry, not sorry, but hoopers are just far too talented. Kareem was already the best player in the world in high school before he went to college, no less in the NBA. He forced an NCAA rule change, the no dunking rule, before he even got to UCLA. Wemby is still developing while in the NBA. That's the crazy thing. And he hasn't inspired a single rule change other than the friendly way the NBA enforces the existing rules under a very elite protection program. But that's all I have for you guys tonight, folks. Thank you for joining me. It was a lot of fun. Don't forget to like the video. Subscribe to Sports Tea. I'm very curious to know what you guys think about Wemby, his development specifically, and if he's the future of the NBA. Please share your thoughts in the comments as well. Have a good night, everyone.